Deleted session, November 24, 1972. Now, much of the information and the most pertinent part is buried in your files. I tried to give the data in various ways, although it was quite definitely given also in terms of the physical relationship several times. And only at one particular period did you try to take advantage of it. It is all there is black and white, including suggestions in the sexual area. Why it would be advantageous. The various emotional points of resistance that would appear during such encounters, and their significance, and much more. I initiated programs. The importance of some of these was that Ruber would feel simply that you were taking an active intimate interest and lending a positive hand. I suggest, if this will do me any good, that both of you take the work involved and find those sessions and finally put them to use. I told you that he felt emotionally deprived, whether or not this seemed logical. That he felt uncherished, whether or not that seemed logical. In the face of this, he drew even greater determination into his work and his success in course to make up for what he felt as other deficiencies. All areas became therefore more sensitive. Blame was projected by him upon other areas, because only when he allowed his thoughts to really surface would he blame you in any way. And when he did, he felt guilty because he knew that you did love him. He felt emotionally deprived regardless. In your own background, you learned to voice silent disapproval. It became a defense mechanism. He kept the symptoms for several reasons, and again, all given, to preserve what relationship you had, for one thing. He felt that for all your talk, you wanted him to discipline spontaneity in a way basically impossible for him. Not to release it in physical terms would mean too dangerous. You would find him unbearable, and his sexuality released would then demand fulfillment. He feared he would look elsewhere. You schooled yourself not to display emotion of a warm, spontaneous, happy nature, and he needs that kind of display. Self-protection kept you from doing so. Your love for him in the beginning was strong enough to release you to some degree, so he knew it was in you. He felt it, and he was furious after the test of it to have it for any reason withheld. As he told you, he fought for it. You had arguments and reconciliations. After a point, his stubbornness was aroused, and he felt that you wanted him to beg for what should be his. Now, all the connecting material has been given, and presented in different ways. The symptoms were also a protection. He was trying to hold back, so as not to be re-aroused by promises, only to be turned off again as you withdrew. There is a connection, of course, with his mother's reaction, simply a habit pattern where she would tell Ruber she loved him, and then, in Ruber's eyes, be cruel. The words meant little. On the other hand, he almost would have settled for the words. The balance for him changed. Where you two had been emotionally allied, he felt you were on the other side. As he must watch himself before the world, he must watch himself before you. You were the one who could really hurt him if he let go. By your rejection of his emotional dimensions, he felt you only accepted certain portions of him. Others would not be accepted, and you would run from them. The body cried out to be touched. It said, "I am not being nourished." He kept trying to get your attention with the symptoms while using them to protect himself at the same time, unless he saw signs of the particular warmth and acceptance he needed. He felt he could not afford to let the symptoms go unless he was willing to give you up entirely, and he would not do that. All of this has been given Joseph. He watched and waited to see if you would bring in his rockets when I suggested it. To him, a symbol that you would tolerate frivolity in terms of such a game. He did not think you wanted him to be free of symptoms, because he thought that then you would be faced with problems of emotionalism that you wished to avoid at all costs. Whenever he began to improve, some of these issues would become quite clear and obvious. On some ways, the two apartments, he felt, were an honest symbol of your relationship. When he annoyed you by thrashing about in bed, this was, of course, what the thrashing about in bed was supposed to do, remind you of his presence there. Your answer, "Get up," or "Go into the other room," he interpreted as the basic rejection. There are definite points, and check the old sessions, where emotional resistances will be reached and he will want to cry during the sexual encounter. They should be walked through, and they are detailed, or this is detailed for you. He felt you did not want him to get well, because you would then have these problems to consider, and they bothered you. On one hand, then, he did not want you to have to contend with them, particularly if he could take the tension. There was, however, simultaneously great resentment. How sick do I have to get before you will come back to me, and how can I be sure of it? This was still, however, you see, quite selfish, in that you are the person he wants. He was willing to do it. He is not looking for an endless adolescent love affair, but in his terms, the simple emotional creature love, support, that he felt you must, because of your nature, largely withhold. To compensate, he realized that you gave all you could, that you were his partner in work, in serious needs, and in important endeavors, but he wanted touches, and because of his nature, reassurances. He tried to show you his love, but finally he became ashamed of needing you, and felt even that you thought less of him because of it. It bothered and annoyed you, since it was a demand, and he did not believe in demands, and one that brought problems up within you. The reincarnational material given in the bedroom over there one night was also a statement of that nature. The night in which Ruber related to you as the prettiest prostitute you visited. Your lack of verbal communication of your exact feelings, plus your learned facility for facially expressing disapproval, only allowed him to reinforce his ideas. Your face does not as easily express your pleasure, so that did not physically show as often. But again, my dear friend, this has been given in these same terms. One note, I will not keep you late. You may have a break now if you want. Rob said, okay.